alone. I couldn't do it alone. I needed his help that day. And at that time, this was several years ago, the Arlington Diocese decided to bring together a group of pro-lifers, evangelical and Catholic pro-lifers, to brainstorm about what do we need in our community to try and end abortion. And they came out with a solution that I just thought was too ambitious. I didn't have faith or hope that they could do it. And that was to create a pro-life medical clinic. Now, as we sidewalk counselors, we're talking with the women. We could send them to pregnancy resource centers that do such incredible work, but there need to be a step after that. When the women decided to keep their children, they needed the prenatal care. They needed the help after that. Well, there was a saintly man who stepped forward, Dr. John Buchalski, who'll be speaking to you later, and he started a pro-life medical clinic here in the area to do that very thing. And one day, just days before the end of a year, we got, pro-lifers, you may remember this, got an email, a desperate plea that his clinic was going to have to close because the cost of the medical malpractice insurance had skyrocketed so high, there was no way that he could pay for it. So the pro-lifers in this community came together and raised the tens of thousands of dollars that were needed to keep that medical clinic open. And you know what? You know why that's so important. When the women go to that clinic, they get the loving care that they need, not just medical care. And it's certainly not the way that they're treated if they go to those dirty abortion clinics, dirty in every sense of the word. Well, Concerned Women for America, Virginia recognized how dirty these clinics are and have been working for years to get legislation passed to simply put in place the kind of safety regulations that are required of any other kind of medical clinic. And Carol Denner, who is our legislative director in Virginia, who's somewhere here in the crowd, faithfully every year would drive down to Richmond. She's a nurse. She would take time off of work to go testify in the Virginia legislature to convince them that we needed these safety regulations in place. And every year it would get shut down in the Senate Health Committee. Well, one day, just a couple of years ago, there was an article in a local newspaper of a woman who'd had a botched abortion, botched so bad when that abortion clinic dumped her on the steps of an emergency room hospital. Not even that hospital could save her life. She died. And Carol took that information and she went to the senators and the legislators and said, look, this is what's happening in Virginia clinics. Well, there were two senators who really took this to heart, and they did the research, and they looked at what they could do, what more could they do. And one of those senators decided to run for the Attorney General of Virginia, and he won, Ken Cuccinelli. He's now the top law enforcement official in Virginia. And one of the first things that he did when he came into office, you know what he did. He took all that work that he had done as a state senator, and he immediately put into place a legal analysis that showed that there are already measures in place that we could enforce these safety regulations against these abortion clinics. You know, we can't do any of these things alone. Even the heroes in our movement, like Ken Cuccinelli and Dr. Buchalski, can't do it alone. We need each one of us playing a part and holding arms together, working together, and through that we will see victory. When I got involved in the pro-life movement way back in 1989, it looked hopeless. Majority of Americans said that they were in favor of Roe versus Wade. They were in favor of this idea of so-called legal abortion. That's because they thought it was safe and they thought it was good for women. Look how far we've come. Now the majority of Americans believe that abortion is immoral and it ought to be illegal. We're so close to that finish line, we can't stop now. No, the women continue to feel like they're alone when they realize that they have a baby inside them and they don't feel that they can carry that child to term. But there are volunteers who are willing to stand beside those women. One of those volunteers is Penny Nance. She worked with birth mothers. She's also served on the board of Bethany Christian Services to help with adoptions of these children. And she is now the CEO of Concerned Women for America. Please welcome Penny Nance.
Thanks, Wendy. I hope most of you are familiar with Concerned Women for America. We have 500,000 members from all over the country, And we have a great, thriving membership here in the state of Virginia. And Wendy mentioned a little bit about that. But I am here standing on the shoulders of the women from antiquity who have understood that abortion is the seminal human rights issue, and certainly the seminal human rights issue of our time. We have the early suffragists, women like Susan B. Anthony, who talked about the issue of child murder. Alice Paul said that abortion was the ultimate devastation for women. And the first woman who ran for president, Victoria Woodhull, talked about the issue and understood that abortion took a human life and was an important human rights issue. So I would say join together with these women. We talked about, you've heard a lot about this being the year of the conservative woman. It is the year of the conservative woman, and also it needs to be the year of the unborn. So help us make that dream a reality. Be a part of the solution. Many of you live here in Fairfax County. Behind you is the government center. Go vote. Come out for candidates who represent your beliefs and help us get this across the goal line. We've got to protect the unborn. If not us, who's going to do this? You know, I came here today with my family, and I have with me my 2 children, including my 13-year-old daughter. The next speaker you're going to have had a similar experience, except it's the opposite. Today, I encouraged my children to come and brought my 13-year-old, but our next speaker, Abigail, came as a 12-year-old as a volunteer at abortion clinics at her mother's urging. But you know what? God is a big God. He reached down in the midst of the abortion clinic and grabbed her heart and showed her truth. And so she's going to come down and share with you a little bit of her story.
I was raised by, sorry, had a bit of a cold. This audience looks very familiar to me because I grew up going to rallies and protesting, but on the other side of things, my mother worked in an abortion clinic and worked for Planned Parenthood. And when I was 11, she put me on the birth control pill. When I was 12, she started bringing me to the clinic to volunteer. Fortunately, thanks to God, at that clinic I met not only some wonderful sidewalk counselors who spoke to me while I was working as an escort outside the clinic. I also had the opportunity to read some of the classic pro-life literature, Joe Scheidler's book and a few others. And at that time, although I didn't know Christ and wouldn't come to know him for years, my heart was converted to the pro-life cause. I had to keep it a secret for many years. When I was in college, I became pregnant and my mother forced me to have an abortion. I spent many years regretting it, dealing with depression, lack of trust in relationships, lack of confidence in myself as a mother. I got married. I have 2 beautiful little boys who have autism. And earlier this year, when I was looking for support groups for autism, I found that they were all Christian, and I couldn't understand why. When I asked on an atheist website, the response I got was, "We're sorry you weren't able to find out and abort your son in time. Maybe we need better euthanasia laws so he won't be a burden to you, but at least you won't have to have autistic children in the future." And at that point, I realized that maybe there was something to Christianity. Maybe there was a reason why these Christian people were pro-life, were pro-family, were loving. I'd never understood that. I'd been a politically conservative atheist for years. Yes, one of the proud 3 conservative atheists in America. One of the others being my husband. And at that point, I started to research Christianity in addition to researching autism. I went from being a silent pro-lifer to being an outspoken pro-lifer. I joined a church.